One thing I've really noticed about super high level, ambitious, career driven professionals is that when they're at home, no one seems to listen to them. And this doesn't apply to everyone, but if you're watching this and you're like, that kind of sounds like me, well, you're going to want to know, well, you're going to want to watch the rest of this, okay? So, let's say you're at home, right? And you came back from work. You're used to telling people what to do. You're used to telling people what went wrong, what they need to do better. You plan things. You have meetings with people. You're building teams. But at home, if you take that same mindset, that same framework on to your actual family members, with your spouse, with your children, or other people in your family, that's where the problem lies. That makes things confusing. And I'll tell you how to fix this. But first, before we understand how to fix this, we need to lay out the framework of why this happens. Because when you know why, you'll be able to know when it happens. You'll end up gaining awareness of when it happens and what you're doing wrong. And when you can do that, then you can apply the fix that will help fix this. All right, so number one, what is the framework? Why does this even happen? So there's two different sides of the brain, or even just two different modes of thinking. You have that one part that's more logical, more analytical. It's very structured. It can even be black and white. Now, on the other hand, you have the side that's more emotional, more expressive. And if you're watching this and you clicked on this video, I'd make the fair assumption that the former mode of thinking is stronger for you because that's what you're used to. Maybe you're that type of person who has spent through high school years, their 20s, their 30s, building their career, building their skills in their workplace, in your field of work. And so when you don't practice this other mode of thinking, literally it's a different neural pathway in your brain. Like, no joke. Okay, I have my degree in psychology, bachelor's of science. I needed to take science and arts class in psychology. So literally, it's a different neural pathway in your brain that is better than the other. So you've been playing this tape, playing it over and over, going through this pathway over and over, of being very structured, of being a problem solver, of getting the work done immediately, of planning things, being logistical. But then when you come back home and you apply that same framework because it's what you're used to, then your family members start getting confused. There starts to be tension in the house because you can't apply that same framework that you use at work with your family members. It just doesn't work like that. The way you speak and the way you act at work, it works well because there's a certain place and a certain time that makes that mode of thinking, that mode of behavior work well. It gives you good results, okay? Now, as to when this happens, how do you catch the moments that this happens? Now, let's focus on what happens when there's tension in your house. Okay, maybe this can even apply to close friends, but for this specific video, what I've titled it is specifically for your family members. Because there are certain different dynamics, but I can go into that some other videos. But with your family, right? So for example, maybe your wife or your husband or whoever it is, they're not the same as your coworkers. They're not the same as the HR team at work. They're not the same as your boss or your manager. They don't need you to immediately problem solve for them. They need you to be there emotionally. And what do I mean by that? Because I know everyone throws around this word or this phrase of being emotionally available, of being emotionally supportive, but no one ever really explains it. So let me tell you, being emotionally available means you're using active listening. And this isn't to sound condescending or judgmental, because it is a skill that I've practiced for many years in my life. And I would say I'm more on the natural side of it. Some people are not. Some people, they need to really hone in on this skill to develop it. And on the other hand, people are used to being the listener, right? You have the listener, then you have the talker. And if you're the one who is always giving directions at work, you're telling people what to do at work, you're telling so-and-so what to do. And so when you're not used to being the listener, when you're talking to someone, well, then you end up just telling them what to do instead of really taking in, how do they feel? What is the context of their problem? What is really going on? And you can even listen to them and come to the conclusion, come to the true understanding of whether or not they actually want your help, or if they just want an ear or a shoulder to cry on, things like that. Like, do they genuinely want you to help solve their problem? Or do they want someone to listen to them? Because we're emotional, we're human beings. They probably already know what to do. But maybe they just want you to be there for them emotionally, to listen to them, to feel compassionate towards them, to be empathetic towards them. And I'm not saying that you're not empathetic. However, once again, when you were using that mode of thinking, that more structured, logical mode of thinking with your family, there's no emotion to that, right? Like, you're not going to cry in front of your boss or your manager. There's no deep, personal, very intimate relationships in the workplace. Of course not, right? So the way you're communicating with everyone else in the workplace is different, as opposed to if you're communicating with your family members. And so how does this tie into the fact that no one is listening to you when you're at home? Well, if you really think about it, if you're always coming to them with problem solving, or you're telling them, do X, do Y, well, you should do this. For example, well, you should wash the dishes like this because it'll go a lot faster. Or you should make your bed because it's going to make the room cleaner. And it's going to make you more organized, or it's going to make you more disciplined if you're telling your kids to do that. Sure, they know that. But do they like being told what to do in that tone, in that manner? The way you phrase your tone or phrase your words and the tone that you're using, once again, that's also different when you're using that in the workplace versus when you're using that at home with your family. And so if you don't catch awareness to these, which it does take practice, but just pay attention. Number one, when they come up to you with a problem, try to pay attention to that. Number two, when you're telling, for example, your child to do a certain task that is beneficial to them, catch on to that. Watch your tone. And I'm not saying watch your tone and be gentle to them. No, what I'm saying is watch your tone and the way you phrase your sentences. Is your tone very authoritative? Is it assertive? Is it a bit more aggressive? Is it a bit more stern? Pay attention to those. That can really affect the way someone perceives you. And the way someone perceives you will dictate the way they interact with you. And so when you're wondering, why does my family not want to listen to me? Why is it that they're not taking in the advice or the solutions that I'm giving to them? And it most likely is linked to the way they are perceiving you. When they perceive you as someone who's just throwing out all these rules, all these demands, how do they feel? Right? If you really think about it, they're not going to feel very comfortable around you, because then they end up learning with time and with repetition through all these events, that when they come up to you with the problem, they want emotional support, but then you suddenly start telling them what to do, what went wrong, and you tell them to do X, Y, Z. They don't necessarily want that. And if you lack the active listening skills, maybe it is true that they want that. But do they want that in the same way that you would frame it, as if you were in the workplace? That is completely different. So, if this really resonates with you and this has been a problem for you, don't hesitate to book a free one-on-one 15-minute call with me. And of course, I do coaching. I help highly ambitious, career-driven people, highly successful people. Those are my clients, basically. That's my target client. These are people who I genuinely feel I can help with their close interpersonal relationships, whether it's your close friends, your family members, your spouse, your partner, whoever it may be, or you feel like you're lacking that sense of vulnerability. And you might not even be aware of that, but you might be confused that, why is it that they're not listening to me? Why is it that there seems to be a ton of tension, even though there's no major, huge problem? Things like that you're kind of confused about. Don't hesitate to book a one-on-one 15-minute call with me. And then, if you like it, we can continue more. I have different coaching programs and different kind of sessions. So thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. If you haven't, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me a lot, and I'll show up on your feed more if that's what you want. And see you in the next video.